Hey guys, John here. Wanted to do the update for June of 2018. A couple topics I want to talk about to keep you informed on what we're working on and some of the things that are going to be coming to in the near future, and just an overall update of how the project has been progressing. So we very recently released version 1.1. This was a patch that I really wanted to do to help streamline the form components throughout the framework, which I definitely think that it's done. The unfortunate situation is that Google updated material design mid-process, so there are a couple of stylistic things that we have to update in future releases to account for the change. But other than that, as far as actual release, I believe that it has gone very, very smooth. We have a couple of bugs that we've been fixing up and getting squared away. This morning we released 1.1.3, and other than that, I believe that it has been very, very smooth. We had the soft deprecation. So if you're coming from version 1.0 and you don't know anything about 1.1 at all, we have a soft deprecation in for all of the new components. So when you actually upgrade to 1.1, it'll tell you. And if you want some more information on the nitty-gritty details, I'll put a link inside of this post to the upgrade guide for version 1.1. Now, one of the things that we've been doing with 1.1 and with some of its patches overall is upgrading the framework to TypeScript. Kale has been hard at work at setting up types since the beginning, and now we are finally starting to actually create all of our components from TypeScript from the ground up. So it should definitely help with type definitions and all kinds of other things. I'm still in the process of learning and getting better at it. I'm in no way a master, but it's been a lot of fun learning some new things, and everyone on the team has been taking pretty good to it. So we're going to keep on, and hopefully that'll provide some better context within your IDEs, like if you're using VS Code with the TypeScript support. Another thing I want to talk about, so Shadow Codex, one of our community members, is actually going to be kind of taking charge of the writing side of Vuetify. If you don't know, we have a Vuetify Medium publication where we publish articles about, guides to use Vuetify. Right now we have a series going on about creating a list tree component, which is actually going to be included in the front end pack, among other various topics and whatnot, just to kind of help enrich the ecosystem of Vuetify. So Shadow Codex has taken over that, and he's working with some new writers right now to get us some fresh content up there. So be sure to check it out in the upcoming future. And so next thing I want to talk about is the documentation. So one of the things that we have been spending a lot of time on recently is improving the experience when you're actually moving through the docs. We've been trimming up a lot of processing and components that were making it feel a little sluggish in certain circumstances. And we've been moving our image assets to a proper edge caching CDN, as well as optimizing the images so that we can help increase our loading speed in the docs around the world. We've added we added a new translation. Pedro has been working on Brazil Portuguese. Probably got that wrong. But he's been working on it very hard, and he still has a little bit left to do, but we have that language up now on the dock. So if that is your native language, it should be a lot easier to move through and understand what's going on. And overall, the documentation is just under is being heavily scrutinized right now because we have a lot of visitors that are coming, and we want to make sure that it's a great experience for everyone, regardless of the device or the connection that you're on. So we're going to keep working towards that goal and hopefully continue to improve it more in the future. Now, with 1.1 out, we are now working towards version 1.2, which is going to be the release that has the front-end pack. The front-end pack was the first goal that we met on Patreon whenever I started this, actually June of last year. So it's been just over a year since I started doing the Patreon contributions, and I definitely want to thank everyone for your support. It has been an amazing experience so far, and I hope to continue delivering quality Vue components for you for the foreseeable future. But now that we're moved past the initial 1.1 and we have some components upgraded that I particularly needed for the front end pack, we are full steam ahead with that. We have quite a few pull requests from our dev team already on the repo that are just waiting to get merged in. Working on some new things like Kale is working on vimage, which is going to be a cool little component that is going to be the basis for a lot of other functionality that kind of already exists. One of the trends that a lot of people should notice about 1.1 is we are focusing more heavily on creating baseline functionality and then extending it so that it's a lot easier to maintain, and components have a better defined scope of responsibility. vSelect was a really good example of this in 1.0, where it had tags and combo box and autocomplete and all this functionality that it had to kind of flip-flop between. Whereas now we have a nice dependency chain where we extend from text field to select to autocomplete to combo box. And we're going to try to start migrating this philosophy and design pattern to other components throughout the framework, which was kind of the initial basis, at least for me, for version 1.2. We have like Jumbotron and Parallax and Carousel Item, which Carousel Item does now extend Jumbotron, but there's just functionality that kind of exists. vCard Media is another example that you kind of want to use in any scenario that you may want to use an image, but the functionality was kind of scattered throughout between various components without any clear hierarchy of how to potentially get something like a gradient in a vCard Media. So Kale's been working on that. Among some other components that we have in the process, I've been ramping up on the file input, doing a lot of research and trying to make sure that we have a good hefty set of functionality built into the component, as well as some nice scalable features. And that's pretty much it for version 1.2. We're going to be potentially refactoring a couple components for the MD2 spec. But majority of that is more than likely going to come with version 2.0, which is what I want to talk about now. So the team has already been discussing some architectural changes that we want to make for version 2 because it is going to be breaking and major. And some of those things that we feel are going to be hidden behind some upgrades that we're working on. Like recently, Kale and I have been working together to create what we call services for Vuetify, so that we can move all of the theme functionality and the breakpoint functionality off of VApp. Actually, I believe that breakpoint is actually off of VApp as of 1.1.3 or 1.1, something like that. It might be there, it might not be. But we're trying to potentially deprecate the need for using VApp, so it's a lot easier to integrate Vuetify into potentially existing projects. But some of these changes require breaking changes on our behalf for how users actually bootstrap the application. So for version 2.0, it is going to be our main focus to not only upgrade our existing styles to match the new spec defined by Google, but to also include their new components. They have some new components that weren't in Material Design 1, and they've also removed a bunch of components. Well, we won't be removing any components, but we're going to make sure that we update everything, at least that's not covered within the new spec, to at least look and feel like you would expect if it were. And so some of those things that we want to change, new theming options, I'd like to provide some additional flexibility. We've been 1.1 introduced a top-level config where you can define, when you're bootstrapping Vuetify, things like the language and RTL and icons and whatnot. And I'd like to continue with that fashion to offer a lot of flexibility whenever you're building and setting up your application. Because right now it can be kind of irritating depending upon what your use case is for your own project. And the last thing I'm gonna be working on the roadmap update. I haven't updated it in a while. What's up there right now is still indicative of what we are progressing with. We're just a little bit farther behind because 1.1 took just a little bit longer than I had hoped. But we still are on track this year, again, to get the front-end components delivered. I'm starting to hunker down and start working on the set of videos that we'll be releasing hopefully later this year. I've been working with Vue Mastery, and we're going to try to put together a really cool series that's free and available for everyone to learn how to use Vuetify. And that's kind of all I have for today. I've been trying to stream at least the coding portion whenever I'm working on Vuetify at night, to connect with other developers and just kind of show everyone my process and some of the things that I'm working on. So if you're into that type of thing, make sure to check it out. You can just come onto the community and you can see we have a streaming channel and whatnot. And otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye.